know, quick weather check for you. Just a few clouds across the northwestern corner of Oregon and across Washington. It's currently 66 degrees in Seattle, 70 in Spokane, 88, still kind of warm in Baker City, 81 in Yakima, and 75 degrees in Salem. Have yourself a great evening.
K2 Weather every hour is brought to you by Teplic Laser Vision, your vision for the future.
News tonight, this Labor Day. President Bush gets ready for a war with Congress over your money. The U.S. storms out of an international conference on racism. In Montana, 50,000 acres up in flames. High winds make the wildfires almost unfightable. We'll take a closer look at a community fighting the sharks. Is it fighting for safety or business? And technology on the cutting edge. Planes with wings that flap like birds. How might that ease the holiday travel crunch?
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Sitting in tonight, Charles Gibson.
Good evening. There's a lot of news in the world this Labor Day. The U.S. has pulled out of an international conference on racism. Wildfires are raging again in Montana. And a group of refugees that nobody wants finally has somewhere to go, but still no home. We start, however, with President Bush, who has been working today. Mr. Bush has been in the Midwest trying to convey a sense of confidence and sympathy on the issue of the economy. ABC's Terry Moran is in Detroit. And Terry, Mr. Bush was courting organized labor, not a group usually among his most ardent supporters.
He sure was, Charlie, and you're right. The president was trying to gain a little bit of labor support for his coming battles with Democrats in Congress. And that does sound like a long shot for a Republican president, but Mr. Bush needs all the friends he can find. Soaked in sweat, the president threw himself into a bit of carpentry in Green Bay. His enthusiasm for manual labor is understandable. The political task ahead of him is daunting. Mr. Bush is ostentatiously trying to avoid appearing out of touch with people hurt by the sagging economy, a mistake his father famously made during the last recession.
And I worry about it. I worry about the families affected. I'm concerned about the children whose dad or mom may not be able to find work right now.
The president is also trying to deal with a drastically shrunken budget surplus. Democrats are blaming his tax cut for the shortfall and demanding he admit it was too big.
Unless the President of the United States steps up and puts on the table the notion that they have made a miscalculation and they are currently misleading the American people, we're going to have a great deal of difficulty avoiding a train wreck.
Mr. Bush is hanging tough.
Like any piece of policy, there'll be second guessers, and you'll hear them. They'll say, oh, we shouldn't have had tax relief. But my question to them is, they want to raise taxes?
But in a sentiment echoed in several polls, some of the Teamsters who listened to the president at a picnic in Detroit this afternoon said they doubted the president's prescription for recovery.
I appreciated the $600 he gave me, but I know it's going to cost me thousands in the long run.
And the big concern among many union members, what's going to happen to that Social Security surplus? And Charlie, it may be that the coming collision between the president's repeated promises not to touch the Social Security surplus and the harsh budget realities could be the biggest problem he faces in the fall.
And it is a fight that will play out through the fall. Terry Moran in Detroit, thanks. At the World Racism Conference in South Africa today, the United States and Israel did what they had been threatening to do for days. They walked out. The two countries objected to the anti-Israel language which delegates want in the final declaration. ABC's Martha Raddatz is at the State Department tonight. Martha, the language in this declaration, no surprise, was the pulling out. Any surprise?
Well, I'd say, Charlie, the surprise is that the delegation lasted so long in Durban. Secretary of State Colin Powell did not go to this conference because he feared this language would remain. It did remain, and today he pulled the delegation back, issuing a statement saying, I know that you do not combat racism by conferences that produce declarations containing hateful language. Tom Lantos, the congressman from California, was a delegate over there. He said, Charlie, that it had been hijacked by extremists.
So, in the long run, when we pull out of a conference on racism, even though we object to this language, does it hurt the U.S. in any way?
In some sense, it does. The United States has been in contact with Egypt and the Arab League trying to get this language out of there. They did not succeed. This puts more of a focus on the Mideast and, in a sense, pits the Arab League against the United States and Israel.
All right, Martha Raddatz at the State Department. In the western United States, the fires are back. In Montana today, firefighters battling a 50,000-acre fire are facing a real struggle. High winds have kicked up to spread the fire, and forecasters say the winds are going to get worse. The fire is only 5% contained so far, and ABC's Bill Redeker is joining us now from Columbia Falls, Montana. Bill?
It's become so windy, so dangerous, Charlie, that all 1,100 firefighters have been brought off these mountains and back down here to the base camp. 35-mile-per-hour winds are the reason. They have pushed the fire forward as much as 5 miles in the last day. Firefighters have built containment lines, hosed down hot spots, and helped homeowners try to protect their properties. 36 buildings are threatened. Nearly 24 people have been evacuated. This Labor Day weekend, the fire exploded, doubling in size. More than 50,000 acres have been destroyed, 1/5 of them in Glacier National Park. In many cases, there is nothing firefighters can do.
If a fire were to come through here, it'd be like a freight train.
Ed Crosby may soon have to abandon his general store because the fire is only a few hundred feet from his door.
It's just coming on down the mountains, like maybe 1/3 down the mountain now.
It's a bit frightening, isn't it?
A little bit. At night it is, when you see it, because the winds kick up and then it starts burning again.
But not everyone is willing to leave. The owner of this ranch is stubbornly sticking it out.
They are going to definitely be threatened by the fire.
You can't put your people at risk either.
No, we will not put our people at risk.
The weather forecast is not promising. As you can see, the winds are picking up once again, and nobody believes it's going to get any better anytime soon. Charlie?
ABC's Bill Redeker in Montana. The national briefing begins with some holiday politics. Former Attorney General Janet Reno is preparing to run for governor of Florida. Tomorrow, she will file paperwork that lets her raise money for a bid. If Miss Reno were to win the Democratic nomination, she would face Governor Jeb Bush, the president's brother, in the general election. In Minneapolis, former Vice President Al Gore was back on the campaign trail to support that city's mayor and her run for re-election. But the questions were whether he would run for president again. He said he didn't know. And referring to last year's election, the former vice president said, you win some, you lose some, and then there's that little-known third category. And in Florida, McDonald's has given $1 million to a former homeless man. The company says Patrick Collier was chosen randomly as part of an attempt to restore confidence in its promotions. An investigation recently revealed that an employee at a marketing company running a McDonald's sweepstakes stole $13 million in winnings. Overseas, in the waters off Australia's Christmas Island, the journey to freedom. Maybe. After being stranded for 8 days, more than 430 refugees, mostly from Afghanistan, are now on their way to Papua New Guinea aboard an Australian Navy ship. But the international dispute over their future and their eventual destination is far from over. ABC's Ned Potter reports.
In the open ocean, the Australian troop carrier Menorah ferried the refugees from the Norwegian freighter that had rescued them.
2 and 3 spot whilst we are embarking.
If the Australian government has its way, this is as close as the boat people will ever get to Australian soil.
We are very generous in terms of the number of refugees we take.
In fact, Australia has been vilified for being anything but generous. It says it does not want to be a dumping ground for syndicates that smuggle desperate people from one country to another.
Our refugee program, as a proportion of our population, is the second most generous in the world, so we have nothing to apologize for.
Meanwhile, though, the boat people themselves are on a journey that in some ways is just beginning. Most of them escaped from Afghanistan and made their way 4,000 miles across the Indian Ocean to Indonesia. They crowded onto a boat headed for the remote Australian territory of Christmas Island. But before they got there, they were shipwrecked. And when the freighter that rescued them tried to help them finish their journey, it was stopped by Australian commandos.
This is Menorah, good afternoon.
Now the plan is for the troop carrier to take them another 3,000 miles to Papua New Guinea, where one group will be flown to New Zealand and a larger one to the desolate Pacific island of Nauru. Even then, it is unclear where the odyssey will end. And the business of trafficking humans will not end anytime soon.
There are always going to be smugglers and traffickers available to prey on the desperation of these people.
Still, the UN says Australia set a dark example for other countries and wonders what will happen the next time a boatload of refugees turns up at sea. Ned Potter, ABC News, New York.
In the rest of the overseas briefing in Israel today, 4 small bombs exploded in Jerusalem. 5 people were slightly injured. A Palestinian group claimed responsibility and said it was to avenge the assassination of that group's leader a week ago. In retaliation, Israeli helicopters attacked a Palestinian security building in the West Bank, and 2 Palestinians were killed in gun battles there. In Belfast, the children and the barriers. It was a terrifying morning for Catholic girls who passed through a Protestant neighborhood on their way to school for the new semester. Authorities had put up a barrier along the route because Protestants had objected to even little Catholic children going through their neighborhood. Riot police had to push some of the demonstrators back. And in Tokyo today, stocks fell to a 17-year low after poor earnings reports from the electronic companies Hitachi and Sanyo. It's the 5th straight losing session for the Nikkei, which has dropped nearly 25% since the beginning of the year. Just ahead, an intensive search for sharks. After the first shark attack death this year, we'll take a closer look at what damage a single attack can do to a community. The new materials which can make airplane wings fly like a bird's. Technology on the cutting edge. And the mystery of the vanishing crabs, the threat to the workers who have spent decades fishing for them.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Prevacid.
The Heartburn Hotel. If you suffer persistent heartburn 2 days a week or more, despite diet change and treatment, it may be acid reflux disease. Prescription Prevacid can mean 24-hour relief from acid reflux disease. Prevacid turns off tiny pumps that produce acid. It has a low occurrence of side effects, such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. Ask your doctor if Prevacid is right for you.
So leave your heartburn behind, yeah! Okay, I always knew Spencer had to go out into the world someday, but I was hoping at least he'd be shaving. It seems separation is only a problem for one of us. He's okay, as long as he gets to wear his favorite shirt every day. Trick is getting it clean every night.
Tide Deep Clean formula combines an amazing detergent with the power of a pre-treater. It's all you need for the best stain fighting ever.
I think school's been a good experience. There's been a lot of progress, a lot of maturing, and it's been good for Spencer, too.
Introducing a new premium sedan from Hyundai with soft leather, traction control, V6 power, and the freedom of America's best warranty plan. All for less than $24,000. The new Hyundai XG300. Fly first class for the price of coach.
Get 0.9% APR financing on the XG300 now.
You are a superhero to someone. So act like one.
And take a premium vitamin.
Mega Men multivitamins, exclusively from General Nutrition Centers, with 39 premium ingredients for men, including things like saw palmetto, ginseng, and natural vitamin E. It's a formula no one else has, so it's more than just a multivitamin. Take care of yourself, superhero. Someone's watching you. GNC. Live well.
At Virginia Beach, Virginia today, divers and jet skiers were patrolling the seashore after the shark attack this weekend that killed a 10-year-old boy. David Peltier of Richmond, who was about to start 5th grade, became the first shark attack fatality in the U.S. this year. Shark attacks are extremely rare, but generate enormous attention. And for a town that relies on the beach and tourist revenue, just one attack can cause enormous damage. ABC's Jim Sciutto takes a closer look.
Beginning at sunrise this morning, police and lifeguards searched all 25 miles of the Virginia Beach shoreline for any signs of sharks. Larry Henninger, one of 40 volunteer divers taking part, admits it's a daunting task.
I think we're making a difference. I mean, in a perfect world, you like to remove the water and go count the fish, but that's not going to happen. So in reality, what we're doing is we're putting eyes on the water.
For the second day since the attack that killed 10-year-old David Peltier, the beaches were declared safe for swimming, and swimmers were back in the water.
What happened day before yesterday was probably a fluke. You know, obviously it hasn't happened here in over 30 years.
Still, news of an attack can be devastating to beachfront towns dependent on the tourist trade. Since several attacks on surfers earlier this month in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, Tim Mason says his beach rental business has fallen off some 60 to 70%.
Everybody follows the news, and I'm afraid it affected the business.
Shark attacks are extremely rare, 30 times less likely than being struck by lightning. But it's partly because they are so rare that shark attacks garner so much attention. And for communities like Virginia Beach, proving what is essentially the unprovable, that their beaches are absolutely safe, can become a matter of economic survival. This Labor Day weekend, for example, Virginia Beach businesses will make an estimated $10 million in tourist-related revenue. Hotel owner Jimmy Capps knows exactly how much is riding on the city putting the shark attack behind it.
If we get another one next week, then we got a major problem from a marketing standpoint.
Virginia Beach's mayor says if businesses here do pay a price, it will be because of the media hype, not the danger.
My business is to create a safe city. Other people's business is to hype things to make sure they get people riled.
Today, swimmers here looked anything but riled, and police say the shark patrols will likely be called off tomorrow. Jim Sciutto, ABC News, Virginia Beach, Virginia.
In the medical file tonight, scientists at the University of Wisconsin say that for the first time, they've turned controversial stem cells into human blood cells. This could lead in time to producing bone marrow that could be used in transplants. But scientists say that is a very long way off. And a British doctor says a cannabis spray administered under the tongue helps relieve the suffering of multiple sclerosis patients and other people in pain. The spray contains extracts from marijuana. We take a break. When we come back on this Labor Day, a way of life going away, the watermen struggling against extinction, and airplane wings that look a lot more like nature, cutting-edge technology that could dramatically improve air travel.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me, cocked your head to the side and said I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying get that together, come back and see me. Yesterday you'd forgiven me, but it'll still be 2 days till I say I'm sorry.
You're looking for a home. You're searching. There are questions. Where do you start? You can search over 1.3 million current home listings. Click on to Realtor.com. Check info on schools and financing. Even take a virtual tour. And when you're ready, you can click and connect with a realtor. Realtor.com. It's the place to start when you start looking for a home.
I ate Quaker oatmeal for 30 days. They tell me it actually works to remove cholesterol from your body. Pulls it right out. Help clip my cholesterol 15 points. That's a whole bunch. Quaker oatmeal warms you heart and soul.
I ate Quaker oatmeal for 30 days. It actually works to remove cholesterol from your body. Sucks it right out. Help lower my cholesterol 10 points. That's even more than I bargained for. Quaker oatmeal warms you heart and soul.
Be adventurous. Be plugged in. Be involved. Be powerful. Be yourself. Because it's your choice, your voice, and your attitude. Today's AARP.
Take that laxative and you miss the bus. Huh? It contains harsh stimulants. Says on the label it could cause abdominal discomfort and cramps.
Sounds worse than constipation.
Oh, you bet. But Phillips is different. It's gentle and stimulant-free, so you don't have to feel worse before you feel better.
That's great. Excuse me? I said the bus is late.
Phillips, the comfortable way.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me, cocked your head to the side and said I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying get that together, come back and see me. Yesterday, you'd forgiven me, but it'll still be 2 days till I say I'm sorry.
Some of this is going to sound like science fiction, but imagine a future where a building can repair itself, when damaged clothing can adjust according to the temperature, and aircrafts can alert maintenance when inspections are required. The concept is called smart material, and it's changing the world around us. Here's ABC's Barry Serafin with technology on the cutting edge.
Today's airplanes are designed to be rigid with wings as stiff as possible. But what if planes were more like birds, able to adapt to weather and wind, with wings that could bend and even change their shape?
We're looking to learn from nature in that regard, so we're creating things that will do things similar to what feathers do.
As head of what NASA calls its Morphing Project, Anna McGowan's job is envisioning aircraft of the future and developing smart materials to make them possible.
By heating this wire up, you can see it springs back to being straight.
And why is that important?
You could train this material to twist the wings of the airplane. You could train it to reduce vibration and stop large-scale shaking of the wings.
Sophisticated, flexible wings could improve efficiency and decrease the cost of flying. That, however, is just the beginning.
We would have sensors like nerves that would be laced throughout the airplane and provide information back to the brains of the airplane, which would be the computers of the airplane.
The brain would send signals to the muscles, such as devices placed along the back edge of a wing, which creates small puffs of air, reducing drag and fuel costs.
We are predicting that you can save as much as $40 million a year in fuel costs for one major airline.
Scientists are also developing smart forms of one of the most common materials, plastic. Like NASA, researchers at the University of Illinois are learning from nature.
This material mimics what the human body does when it heals itself from a cut.
In effect, the plastic can bleed and clot and form scar tissue. Researchers say the self-healing plastic could double the lifespan of many everyday products. For example,
if you drop your cell phone, maybe you could pick it up and wait a few minutes, and then it would miraculously recover itself.
Smart materials that heal, feel, and remember are now part of our future, and maybe even planes that fly like birds. Barry Serafin, ABC News, Norfolk, Virginia.
Sounding like science fiction indeed. When we come back, the threat to a community's livelihood, the crabs that are disappearing.
One bad year of overcrabbing or a natural disaster like a hurricane could wipe out the blue crab entirely.
The stock market. A year ago, it was how high is high. Now everyone's asking where's the bottom. Janus has gotten through tough times the same way we've gotten ahead, picking stocks one at a time, looking for opportunities for over 30 years. Janus is looking right now to be in the right place when a downturn turns into a better day. Get there. Janus Mutual Funds.
Life is like a sport. The impact of each step impacts more than just your feet. But new Stride Guard insoles absorb 50% more heel impact than these Dr. Scholl's. Take more impact in stride. New Stride Guard insoles.
Not only can we handle more of these stains than this leading powder, Whisk tablets can handle more grass stains too. Whisk tablets, anyone?
Tens of thousands of people continue to purchase new Oldsmobiles. Is it because of our special cashback offers? Or the 5-year, 60,000-mile GM protection plan? Or did they simply take a test drive? Are you in the market? Get in an Oldsmobile, backed by GM. And for a limited time, qualified buyers can get 0.9% APR financing.
I'm every man.
And every woman who ever suffered from frequent, persistent heartburn.
If you've treated your heartburn and changed your diet, but the pain comes back 2 or more days a week, then you may think you know about acid reflux disease.
But there's something about acid reflux that I didn't know.
Over time, that acid churning up can wear away the lining of your esophagus.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
I didn't.
Now the makers of Prilosec introduced their new purple pill, Nexium. Just one prescription Nexium a day gives many people complete resolution of heartburn symptoms.
That could mean complete heartburn relief.
And Nexium is also proven to heal erosions in the esophagus caused by acid reflux. Only a doctor can determine if you have this damage. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. The most common side effects of Nexium and Prilosec are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. So talk to your doctor and call this number for more information and for a free trial certificate for Nexium.
Relieve the heartburn, heal the damage. It's possible with the new purple pill called Nexium.
A man approached me about a job.
Spy for what? Against who?
You work for the very enemy you thought you were fighting.
It's impossible.
Alias, ABC Sunday, September 30th.
Tomorrow, when the elderly get behind the wheel, how much danger do they pose to themselves and to you? The answers will really surprise you. Watch World News tonight.
Finally this evening, working the water. This Labor Day, we're going to visit Maryland's Chesapeake Bay and the people who spend their workdays catching a mysterious crustacean called the blue crab. These crabs are enormously popular in restaurants, but they are disappearing, and that is threatening a way of life. Here's ABC's John Martin.
Every morning, Don Pierce sets out with his crew before the first light. Pierce is one of 2,000 commercial boat owners who work the Chesapeake Bay for blue crabs. These creatures and these watermen are a symbol of this region.
The only thing would be better than that would be a pot full of steamed crabs and some cold beer.
On this morning, Pierce and his team are harvesting crabs from 400 cages on the floor of the Chesapeake.
That's crabs.
On a good day, they haul in 40 bushels worth $2,000.
But the problem is the crab harvest is down drastically by 30 to 50% under the long-term average, and the industry is at a crossroads.
We have the potential for a total disaster. One bad year of overcrabbing or a natural disaster like a hurricane could wipe out the blue crab entirely.
The question is what to do. Some blame pollution, some overfishing. The state's answer, reduce crabbing. With the cutbacks, Don Pierce's income will drop 20%.
Can you survive?
It's going to be tough. You know, it's going to be tough.
But Pierce says, what about people polluting the bay? Why no new restrictions on businesses and towns on the shoreline? The fact is that scientists know surprisingly little about blue crabs, making it that much harder to figure out what's causing their decline. Environmentalists say the fate of crabs in the Chesapeake will signal the future for bays and estuaries all across America, and that cutting back the harvest now is a vital first step in protecting these creatures.
So what do you tell a waterman like Don Pierce?
He's got to hang on. We're doing this for him. We're doing this to bring back that fishery. That's what this is all about.
And this, life at the wheel of a boat he built himself, 36 years on the bay, earning a living with his hands and his heart. John Martin, ABC News on Chesapeake Bay.
And that is our report on World News tonight. Peter returns tomorrow night, and coming up this week on World News, a terrible shortage of teachers, an exclusive report on a new breed of secret biological weapons, and the high-paid fashion models they're calling beauty challenged. I'm Charles Gibson. Enjoy what's left of your holiday, and good night.
A new season kicks off. The Giants aim to tackle the prize that escaped them last season, while the Bronco running backs plan to carry Denver to the top of the heap. Giants, Broncos, Monday Night Football, next week at 9, 6 Pacific.
Connecting you to your world, this is K2 News.
Good evening, I'm Paul Lindman. Steve Dunn is off tonight. Hundreds of Labor Day drivers are stuck in a major backup on Interstate 5. At least 5 cars heading northbound crashed into one another south of Castle Rock this afternoon, causing traffic to back up for about 5 miles. This is what it looked like about an hour ago. Some cars are being detoured onto exits near the crash. Others have been squeezed into one lane. They're using the shoulder to get by. We'll continue to follow that breaking news for you. Well, tomorrow is the scheduled moving day for residents of Dignity Village. Portland City Council voted for the homeless camp to move to a new spot, but some residents are against that move. K2's Bob High is live tonight at Dignity Village with more. Bob?
Well, Paul, as we reported...